Okay, good evening, everybody. We'll get this meeting started. It is 7 o'clock, Monday, February 9th. It's our regularly scheduled Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Chair Bradley,
I'm here.
Member Heller, Member Hanley, Member Leister, Member Nielsen,
Here.
Member Vender, and Member Ritter.
Excellent, thank you. Agenda item 2, approval of minutes. A copy of the January 12th, 2026 regular meeting minutes were included in our packet. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's Member Hanley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Let's Member Nielsen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The minutes are approved. Agenda item 3, community development report.
No report.
Wonderful, thank you. Moving on then to agenda item 4, continued cases. We're going to start with case number 2516 SD, otherwise known as 936 Sunset Road. This is an amended application seeking approval of a final plat of subdivision to allow two-lot subdivision at that address. A zoning variation to allow proposed lot 1, which is the current 936 Sunset Road address, to provide less than the minimum required lot depth. We are just a recommending body on this. Village Council has final jurisdiction. And with that, I'll turn it over to staff for their presentation.
Thank you, Chair Bradley. I won't re-summarize the request. We'll just move in to the plan. So on December 8th, the board held a continued public hearing on the initial request for the two-lot subdivision. The item had been originally continued from the October meeting to allow the applicant time to explore amending the request so that the proposed lot 2, the southern lot, would comply with the lot area and rectangular buildable area requirements. At the December meeting, the applicant presented 2 options that you can see here in the exhibit. These are 2 options in comparison to the original proposal. Both of the options would shift the dividing line to the north. The dashed line that you can see here was the dividing line in the original proposal. At the meeting, the board asked the applicant questions focusing on the buildability of proposed lot 1 in option 1 here on the left. And ultimately, the applicant did request that the item be continued to the January meeting to allow them time to evaluate whether to amend the application to move the proposed lot line between these 2 lots. The ZBA did grant that request and continue the item to the January meeting. Then prior to the January zoning board meeting, the applicant did inform staff that they were amending the proposed subdivision, which required different zoning relief. Hence, new public notice needed to be provided. So that notice has been provided. And then at the January meeting, the ZBA did not take any action, hence the meeting this evening. So in response to the comments at both the October and December meeting, the applicant has amended the request, shifting the dividing line 27.36 feet to the north. As a result, proposed lot 1, the northern lot, does require a zoning variation from the minimum lot depth requirement. So now proposed lot 2, the southern lot, fully complies with all the zoning regulations. The subdivision that was originally proposed did not comply with the 2 zoning standards here highlighted on the left, the lot area and the rectangular area. Now the relief is shifted from proposed lot 2 to proposed lot 1, which is now limited to the lot depth. So the lot depth would now be just under 73 feet, whereas a minimum of 200 feet is required, requiring a variation of 13% for 27.36 feet. Now, with respect to the required setbacks and the building size, the amended subdivision does not create any zoning nonconformities on proposed lot 1. However, similar to the removal of the existing tennis court, there is a playhouse that would also have to be removed to accommodate the new dividing line. The same existing nonconformities that you can see here in the table on the left would remain as well. The amended subdivision requires 2 variations from the subdivision code to allow the side lot line of proposed Lot 2 to abut the rear lot line of proposed Lot 1, and creation of a lot with a side lot line that is not perpendicular to the street line for proposed Lot 2. The Plan Commission is scheduled to consider the amended subdivision along with the relief requested, including the subdivision code variations, at its meeting on February 25th. Although subdivision code variations are not the purview of the zoning board, we're providing you this information so that you're fully aware of all the relief necessary for the amended subdivision. So this evening, after hearing from the applicant and the public, the board may continue this request to a date certain or consider a motion recommending approval or denial of the request. I will note that staff has not received any additional public correspondence on this request, other than the materials included in your packet from the previous meetings. So I have nothing further unless you have questions for staff.
Great, thank you, Ann. Anyone have questions for staff? Going once, going twice? Thank you as always. The applicant and the applicant's representatives are here tonight. Swear you in real quick. You promise the testimony you'll give tonight to this board shall be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Great, and your names for the record as you speak would be fine.
Sure. Let me just get a slide back. Good evening, Chair Bradley, members of the zoning board. My name is Christopher Canning. My office is at 1000 Skokie Boulevard in Wilmette. With me are the homeowners, Bob and Susan Marin, and Dan Creaney, who is the project engineer. They're available to answer any questions you have. Brief recap. When we first appeared before you back in December, the proposal, similar to what you see on the left side, option 1, the idea was to return the 2 lots to their pre-1976 calculations, or sizes, I should say, sorry. At that meeting, you asked us, because Lot 2 needed 2 variations, one for lot area, one for minimum rectangular area, to go back and see if you could make it fit. And so we came before you in December with these 2 options, option 1 and option 2. And you recall we met over at the police station. And one of the issues we had that night was we didn't have some of the information that's contained on table 4 that Ann showed earlier as it pertains to some of the building sizes. And so we request a continuance, 1, to figure out that information, and 2, to determine whether or not we want to amend the application. Based on that information we received from Ann, we amended the application, and now are moving forward with what we call option 1, which is the 2-lot subdivision, where the proposed lot 2, the south lot, does meet the minimum rectangular area, does meet the lot area. There are no variations needed from the zoning board for the south lot, lot 2. There now is a lot depth variation needed on lot 1 because we moved the imaginary line 27 feet to the north. So that's the only variations before you. As Ann pointed out, we now had to go back to Plan Commission, unlike when we saw you last time when we first went to Plan Commission, because there's now 2 zoning subdivision variations. And so that's the issue before you as to whether or not to grant the variation for the lot depth. I have provided an updated letter addressing the standards of review. That's in your packet. I, as well as Bob, Susan, or Dan, are available to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. It's good to see you guys again. Any questions for the applicant? Anybody want to take a swing? No? Okay. No, I think we're pretty good here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up to the public. Any members of the public wish to give public comment on this application, you can come forward. We could hear you on this. Seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it in for deliberation. Okay. I think it's fairly straightforward. For those who were at the meeting, the December 8th meeting, it seems as though they heard our comments. It's fairly straightly executed on them, where we had two variances that were required on the proposed lot 2, which I've always sort of thought in my head as the buildable lot area, the white space. we now have one to deal with on Lot 1, which is where the existing structure is. And so we'll open it up for any comment, discussion people have on the zoning relief that we need to approve tonight, if we'd like to. Why don't we start with Mark?
Yeah, I think this is they've taken our guidance. I think this is a reasonable compromise. It's reducing the number of variations required, and I would be favorably inclined to approve this.
Great. Mike, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that they came back with kind of what we thought was the best idea, so I would be for approval.
Lynn?
I would agree. I think the variance that they need to make the subdivision work is much more in line with our standards than the other ones they would have needed with their original proposal. I don't think it will affect the reasonable return. And I think that the variation that we're granting with this proposal is less likely to alter the surrounding properties. So I think that this arrangement, this subdivision proposal is much more in line with what we want.
I guess I didn't ask directly, but does anybody want to weigh in on the left side here on the no material increased adverse impact as it relates really to the observation of the less than the minimum required 50 feet setback from Sunset Road? I think we
Which
need.
one? Wait, which one is that?
It's 2A of the findings on proposed Lot 1, which I think basically we just need a condition. We need a condition that they remove the playhouse structure that's currently
Oh.
there.
Yes,
Hate to lose it, but I think it needs
yes,
to
I
go.
think the Playhouse,
We've agreed to that condition already.
Yeah.
okay, then that's fine.
Okay. Everybody's in agreement with that on the
Yes.
left side? Catherine, good to see you.
Thanks. I don't really have anything to add. I think this is a really good solution considering the constraints that are in place, and it sort of minimizes the variances and makes a lot of sense.
Mike?
I agree with all the comments that you've all made, and I'd like to thank the Marins and their team for being so responsive to addressing all the concerns that we raised at the prior meeting, so I'm in favor also.
Todd?
I wasn't around for the previous meeting. You guys did a great job. Looks like it's on the urgency contrarian. It looks good to me.
All right, good. Obviously, we have the votes. I'll just, I guess, put my 2 cents on it for the record. I do appreciate the time, the energy that you guys took. I do know that there's some members of the public, and particularly in that area, who were nonplussed about the lot being subdivided again, in part because of the concerns of flooding that exists with any new home in the area, and at least putting together a otherwise fully compliant Lot 2, given that that would be the natural place that there would be a new home built, at least allows me to sleep at night that we haven't created a non-conforming lot from the jump that's going to be built in this area. And so that's why I was against putting it back into that original conformant when the lots were required to be consolidated. I do believe it meets all of the standards, and I am fine with the finding of a no material increased adverse impact on the 936 Lot 1 on the condition that's already been conceded by the applicant that the removal of the playhouse structure on that property will satisfy capturing the minimum required front yard of 50 feet. So with that, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval as included on page 17 of our packet.
So moved.
It's Member Hanley. Do I have a second? Member Howers, roll call vote, please.
Member Hanley,
Yes.
Member Haller, Member Nielsen,
Yes.
Member Leister,
Yes.
Member Ritter, Member Vender, Chair Bradley.
Yes, by my count, the motion is approved. we're just a recommending body. Next step is, well, it might not even be village council, it's plan commission and then village council. So, yeah, thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item on the continued cases, agenda item 2602V2, otherwise known as 671 Lincoln Avenue. That applicant has withdrawn its application. The zoning board will not be taking it up. I don't believe we need a motion to, we don't need a motion to continue that of any kind. Okay, so we can just move on. All right, agenda item 5, new cases. The next matter then is case 2528 SU, otherwise known as 225 Sheridan Road, Centennial Beach. This is an application from the Winnetka Park District seeking approval of a special use permit to allow the installation of fencing on the existing beach at Centennial Park. Village Council has final jurisdiction on this request. So I'll officially open the public hearing on this matter. I will note, we are aware that the Park District had a special meeting this past Thursday, February 5th, and authorized a revised proposed plan to the one that is included in our packets. That plan, while it was discussed at that meeting, is not and has not been submitted to the village staff. Certainly nobody up here has had a chance to review it or ask follow-up questions of staff in preparation for a substantive discussion tonight. So it's my understanding that the Park District intends to present tonight on the original plan, but also a decision that was made to move away from that plan this past Thursday to the new plan, which, again, we don't have those materials, and I don't think it would be appropriate to receive or review those materials in real time right here tonight. So I would suggest if it's amenable to everybody up here that having opened the public hearing, we continue this matter to our next meeting, which would be the March 9th meeting, if that works for the applicant, their representatives, and to ensure that we have a quorum here. But that would allow them the opportunity to make a substantive presentation at that time about the revised plan. Would frankly give us and staff the opportunity to review those materials so that we can have a substantive discussion. Frankly, I think it would be thoughtful for the public comment and for that amount of time for the members of the public to sit with the materials, because this is fresh, and I appreciate that the Park District's moved fast from the Plan Commission's recommendation of denial to a new amended plan. But I still think prudence requires that we take the time to review those materials before having a robust discussion on it. So my thought is to entertain a motion to continue this to the next meeting, which would be March 9th. I understand council, the applicant's representatives are here. So I'm going to make a motion to continue this. I would, thank you.
I will move
I would ask
to
for.
make a motion to continue this.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. So why don't we have a discussion? Everybody up here obviously understands we can afford the applicant's representative, a few minutes to explain, why
We're here.
why we're in this position. But I really think
Yeah.
prudence would say let's continue this. But cede the floor a little bit if you'd like to take a few minutes.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Hal Frank. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Meltzer, Pertil, and Stell here this evening on behalf of the Park District. The Park District totally understands and supports the notion of continuing this matter to March 9th. It is an unusual circumstance that we're in, however, in that I'm assuming and hoping that all of you know that what's driving the application is the Park District for the first time in 5 years will be opening up Elder Beach for swimming again. And there's some time constraints here. in trying to get the dog beach secured so that it's in compliance with county regulations, the village ordinance, and the Park District's own ordinance that requires the dogs to be leashed right now if it's not enclosed. As you know, the Park District has to satisfy the concerns of many masters here. We appeared already in front of the Plan Commission. We're here in front of you right now as your ordinance contemplates on the plan that was filed, that's on file with the village that the Plan Commission voted on a week or so ago. We are also scheduled to go to the Design Review Board, ultimately, of course, the Village Council. At the same time, the Park District needs to satisfy the requirements of the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, the Illinois IEPA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As you said, Mr. Chair, after the Plan Commission meeting, and well, let me say this, at the end of the Plan Commission meeting, when it was clear that the Plan Commissioners had expressed a number of concerns, you may recall I stood up at the end of the meeting and asked for that process to be continued so that we could come back with a revised plan, and there was not an inclination made to do that by the members of the Plan Commission. But at the end of that meeting, the suggestion was made that if we want to come up with a plan that addresses concerns of the Plan Commission, that we bring it before the Zoning Board. It's all one process. We all end up at the same place in front of the Village Council. So that's why the Park Board called a special meeting, as you indicated. I think a lot of people in the village here tonight either attended or watched that meeting remotely. And there was a discussion at that time of an alternate 1 and an alternate 2 plan that addressed the concerns that were expressed at the Plan Commission by the members of the Plan Commission and by members of the public. And that's what was considered. And eventually, at the end of the meeting, the Park Board endorsed alternate 1 of these 2 plans that was provided. As you know, that your agenda packet, in accordance with standard operating procedure, was released that same afternoon, and before the meeting. So there was no way really for us to submit that to the village. And so the issue of continuing the zoning board's consideration of this was on the table from the get-go. Our desire is still to proceed this evening because we were going to spend, we have a slide presentation, a PowerPoint. We have like 2 slides on the plan that is officially on record with the village, that was considered by the Plan Commission, theoretically, is to be considered by you. And we're going to spend 2 minutes on that, but we wanted to go over this evening some of the fundamental issues involving the whole issue of this fencing, because whether it's tonight or on March 9th, you're going to need to hear and understand all of those issues. And we did want to then formally introduce you to this alternate plan.
But not in an open public hearing, Counselor. We can't.
Well,
We don't
if
have.
No, I understand, but if we could present the plan to you, the reason I mentioned the different meetings and everything is the Park Board is meeting again on February 26th. So if we could give you from 20,000 feet an overview of this new plan, which many people have seen, it's not a secret, and it hasn't been officially, your staff hasn't officially received it, police, fire, nobody's reviewed it. So that's why I said we totally support the notion of ultimately continuing this process. But to start the whole presentation and understanding of the plan on March 9th means we lose the opportunity to get initial input from you, which we could then take back to the Park Board on February 26th, so that, and any feedback we would get before the 26th from staff, we would be formally submitting it, if you will, after tonight. We would formally submit it so we run the gauntlet here at the village to get formal reviews by engineering, police, and fire. We could get input. Our hope would be that we would get input from you tonight. Again, from a very high level, we'll present to you the issues, how we try to address what we heard at the Plan Commission and from the public. get high-level review from you based on what you hear tonight. Maybe you will give us input and your own thoughts that are different that we could then take back to the park board on February 26th and then come back to you on the 9th. And the reason we're doing all this, again, is because we not only have to get a recommendation from this body, we still have to go to the design review board
Yeah.
and go to the council, and we're trying to get the fencing installed before the beach opens in June or July.
Sure, I appreciate expediency, I really do. My thoughts, the thoughts of the commissioners up here, do not happen in the moment. This is the result of a lot of work, a lot of hours that we put into the review of the materials. It's a lot on the recommendations of staff and the way in which they are able to summarize the key issues that we're to focus on. I don't want to say that it would create any undue hardship in as much as it would create benefit for you to have us pontificate on preliminary designs that you might have put together into the presentation slides tonight. I appreciate the urgency with which you're willing to move. Certainly, there's a motion here. That's all I have to offer, is a motion to my fellow members up here that we stick to our standard operating procedure, which is to review materials once they've been thoroughly vetted and approved by village staff. That's not to prejudice. You'll have a full moment at the March meeting to present both the deficiencies, as you might have called them, from the prior plan to the amended plan that you're working on now. We'll work in full faith to move towards getting you a decision on whatever plan it is that you ultimately determine to be your final for adjudication. But I can't think of a case that we have held where we have sua sponte reviewed materials that were not otherwise blessed and sanctioned by the village staff. And we haven't had the opportunity to review, and frankly, that the public hasn't had the chance to review. This is a public hearing. This needs to be done deliberately and soberly and with much forethought, not on haste and expediency. You guys have had special meetings before. You can have another one from the perspective of trying to get this thing moving along. We have held special meetings before, and if need be, and we can make it work, we will be amenable towards working towards an abbreviated schedule as best we can to move you through, recognizing with full honesty and candor a lot of bureaucracy that you have to move through in order to get done what you need to get done. Everybody here is in support of opening up the beaches that is a time factor in terms of when it gets warm enough that we can have the kids in the water. But if that means that the dog beach needs to hold off, you've got 200, 300 residents that you can explain to them why the dog beach is not available so that you can open up to the rest of the village a public beach if you're so inclined to do that. I'm not going to deviate from our standards to meet the decisions that your park board has made to deviate from its chosen plan. But I'm just one person, so why don't we just take a beat, tell me where you are. We have studied and have a plan that I was prepared to discuss tonight. That plan is obviously no longer approved by the Park District Board. Do we want to entertain a simple procedural decision to continue this to the March 9th meeting, whereby the materials that seem to be already done or near done will be submitted to staff? We can have a timely review, a public hearing, and then move quickly to a decision. Do we want to preview this tonight? Welcome everybody's thoughts. I'm just one person. I can't remember the last time we just let somebody present something that we haven't seen on the papers for at least 48 hours, if not more, before we weighed in on it. I frankly don't. I can sometimes shoot off the cuff with comments, but believe it or not, I prepare a lot of the things I say. So I'd rather not feel obliged to respond to something just because you guys moved faster than we did with a special meeting. Todd, why don't we start with you?
I mean, I agree, we're not really prepared to do anything right now, so that's tough. If we were to throw an image up for everyone to see it, traveled far and wide to see it, I'm cool with that if you want to explain a minute, but to have commentary on something we can't really do anything with is probably a waste of time for everyone, so that's not what we should be doing.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I agree with all.
Can you speak just so we get for the mic? I think we're recording.
I agree with all the points that you raised, Matt. I'm in favor of continuing the application.
Okay. Catherine?
Yeah, I find the paperwork we get from the village to be extremely helpful, and I'll do a much better job if I'm able to prepare.
Lynn?
I agree. I think not having the actual plan in front of us is kind of a disservice to us and the public. So I would prefer more time to review the actual plan.
Yeah, I would agree. We've had previous meetings that came with some preparation or a lot of preparation, and we haven't had any for this. So, yeah, I would say next meeting a month from now would be the better and more prepared time to do it.
Mark?
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go. We have a process for a reason, and this is a very important matter, and we should follow that process. And so that's why I seconded the motion to move this to March 9th.
Okay. This is also obviously for the betterment of all of the public that have come out tonight. I think it's only fair that we afford everybody the full right to review the plan, prepare their public comments, which are often helpful to us in our own deliberation and determination as to whether or not our standards are met. So I will, I think I've already asked for it. We have a motion pending to continue this to our March 9th meeting. Do we need to ensure that we have a quorum for the March 9th meeting before we do that? Okay. Can we just, I know that's on the agenda later, so let's just move up really quick. Agenda item 6, new business, March 9th, regular meeting quorum check. Can we make March 9th? Can we make sure that we have a quorum? Just let me,
I'm good.
I'm good.
you're a maybe.
I'm a maybe.
Catherine? Good down there?
For now, I'm good.
Okay, I think we have it then. Can we have a roll call vote on this motion then? This is a motion to continue 225 Sheridan Road, Centennial Beach to our March 9th meeting.
Member Hanley? Yes. Member Haller?
Yes.
Member Nielsen?
Yes.
Member Leister?
Yes.
Member Ritter? Member Vender?
Yes.
Chair Bradley?
Yes, by my count, the motion carries. I will note for my fellow commissioners up here, the Park District special meeting that was held last Thursday was video recorded, so I think it's helpful to review that if you haven't. I think a lot of the comment that might have been given tonight is going to be reductive of that meeting, as well as the public comment. Thank you. I apologize for everybody's time coming out. You're certainly welcome to give public comment on items not tonight, but if you're here for Centennial Beach, which I presume 99% of the room is, we will see you on March 9th.
So can we comment if we aren't here March 9th?
This item has been continued.
Meeting last week.
This item has been continued to our March 9th meeting, so if you would like to give public comment, you can submit it in advance, and it'll be part of the record, or you can send somebody to read something on your behalf.
But if this item has been continued, then this item isn't on the agenda, so public comments at the end could be on this item.
No, this item is continued now until our March 9th meeting, so,
You didn't allow public comment. You allowed the Park District to speak, but you didn't allow the public to speak. We allowed the Park District to speak on the motion, not on the substance of their application, and it's a public hearing that's been continued, so we can't take testimony anymore because it won't be part of the public hearing record. That would not be fair to allow comment outside the public hearing.
okay. You're free to stay, free to leave. If you are going to leave, please leave quietly. We've got another application. Next on our docket is case number 2604V2. That's 1086 Fisher Crescent Lane. This is an application seeking approval of a zoning variation to allow the construction of a new single-family residence. At that address, the request variation would permit the proposed residence to provide less than the minimum required corner yard setback, and the village council has final jurisdiction on this request.
Good evening. This is a major variation for the property at 1086 Fisher Crescent Lane, sometimes also referred to as 1086 Crescent. For purposes of the consistency, we'll be referring to the property as 1086 Fisher Crescent. This is a major variation for corner yard setback, and final jurisdiction is with the Village Council. First off, the zoning and location maps. The subject property, approximately 0.45 acres in size, is generally located on the west side of Fisher Crescent Lane between Fisher Lane and Scott Avenue, and contains an existing two-story residence and a detached garage. The subject property is zoned R2 single-family residential, surrounded by the same zoning district. The comprehensive plan designates the subject property as appropriate for single-family residential development, and the zoning of the property is consistent with the comprehensive plan in that regard. The subject property is, just briefly describing the zoning lot conditions of the property, because that's very germane to the request. The subject property is a wedge-shaped lot with a front lot line along a westerly private road easement. It's a curvilinear corner lot line along the eastern and north portions of the property, and then a side yard along the south property line with no rear yard. The property is considered a corner lot due to the existence of an unused and unimproved private road easement along the west property line, which you'll see in the plat survey on the west, or the left part of the slide. The recorded easement is still in effect, even though a roadway was never installed on it. As a result, the area, along with the private road easement area along Fisher Crescent Lane, is excluded from the lot area for zoning purposes. Zoning ordinance defines the shortest frontage of a corner lot as the front lot line. For this property, the shortest street line is the outermost limits of the unimproved private road easement along the western side of the lot. Therefore, the front lot line along the west is along the west, and the corner lot line is along the north and east along that curvature along Fisher Crescent Lane. The existing lot is legally non-conforming with a net lot area of 19,652 square feet, while the requirement for an R2 corner lot is 25,200 square feet. Also, the lot is 175 feet in lot depth, while the minimum required lot depth is 200 feet for R2. Lastly, the lot has an average lot width of 112 feet, while the requirement for an R2 corner lot is 115 feet. Wanted to point out that also on that excerpt from the plat survey, the yellow area represents the two private road easements to show the section from, not only is that area excluded from the zoning lot, but it is also where the setbacks are measured from, not from the lot line, but from where the private road easement ends. And the red area represents sort of the approximate buildable area with the required setbacks taken into account. The applicant has submitted for a demolition application for the existing residence, which was considered by the Historic Preservation Commission last September and approved without delay. So the residence you see in these photos is planned for demolition. These photos of the corner yard elevation along Fisher Crescent Lane are intended to provide a visual context for the site itself. The left photo is the easternmost corner of the subject property. That's Fisher Crescent Lane looking west, and then a little further up Fisher Crescent Lane, still looking west. And then Fisher Crescent Lane looking southwest. And then the right photo is the northernmost corner of the subject property, which is Fisher Crescent Lane looking south. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing home and garage and construct a new single-family residence. One variation is being requested to allow the proposed residence to provide a corner yard setback of 24.67 feet, whereas a minimum of 32.92 feet is required, a variation of 8.25 feet or 25% from the edge of the private road easement that is Fisher Crescent Lane on the north and east side of the property, approximately 25%. The left side just again shows the plat survey excerpt with the approximate buildable area, and then the slide on the right is the proposed site plan of the house, and we've just pointed out the portions of the house which would be encroaching into the required corner yard setback. Just want to point out that these are the proposed elevation renderings of the facade renderings of the proposed house. For the zoning standards and the site plan, the ZBA is considering one variation requested by the applicant for new home construction. All variation requests related to a new principal building are considered major variations and must be approved by village council. This is the zoning standards. You'll see just sort of a reminder of the existing nonconformities and then where the requested zoning relief is for the corner yard setback, with the proposed site plan on the right, which is repeated from the previous slide. Worth mentioning that staff has received 2 written comments from neighbors, one of which is included in the agenda packet, and one comment was received today, which was provided to you as supplementary material from a household representing themselves as Mr. and Mrs. Chuck and Jane Swartz. After hearing from the applicant and the public, the board may decide to act upon one of the 2 options. One would be continue hearing to a specific date to provide applicant and/or staff with additional time to address ZBA questions and comments, or second option would be consider a motion recommending approval or denial of the variation. Draft language can be found on page 375 of 392 in the agenda packet. Any questions for staff?
Thanks. Anyone have questions? I have one. Can you go back a slide?
Say when.
Right there. Nope. Yeah. Why do we have, on the existing structure that's on the house, why do we not have a measurement on the minimum front yard, minimum corner yard, minimum side yard? Why are those not included here? I know this is a new construction, so it's not determinative, but I'm just trying to understand.
The setbacks are the same for the existing house as they would be for the proposed house. The only difference between the existing house and the proposed new house would be front yard setback, which can sometimes be subject to a block average, but this property, the context of the block that this house is on, does not have enough households or lots to make it subject to any average, so therefore it's the minimum of 50 feet.
So the minimum front yard, which is measured from that west easement,
Right.
you're saying that the house that's presently on the property honors that 50-yard setback? 50
No,
foot
the
setback?
the existing house is legally non-conforming.
Yeah, so why isn't that on here? I'm just trying to understand.
That house is proposed to be demolished,
Right.
so
But from the perspective of what's there and what's sort of become the footprint of 1086 Fisher for all these years, to not have an understanding of why they're citing the house, particularly where they are right now, versus where it was, existing non-conforming, and seeking that relief. I'm just trying to understand. I understand the red triangle represents the buildable area without any relief sought, and the purple areas are the encroachments in the corner yard setbacks. I'm trying to understand this design, trying to put it into the triangle as compared to what is presently existing non-conforming on the property, which is more in keeping with what the neighborhood and sort of the community would think of as even though it's not conforming, the existing footprint of the house. I'm trying to understand why we don't have those measurements.
we had, when we were generating the staff report, we had decided to frame it just from the perspective of the proposed house would be demolished. So that's why we did not include necessarily those existing conditions of impermeable gross floor area or setbacks, because the entire lot was going to be
Okay.
redeveloped.
Thank you.
Chair
Anybody
Bradley,
else?
if I may.
Yeah.
The Platis survey does show some of the existing setbacks, if you're looking for those details.
I mean, it looks like it's right up on it, right?
It is,
Right.
it's yeah, it's like, I can't necessarily read the small print, but it's less than 4 feet from the property line, but keep in mind that the west 10 feet is a private roadway easement. So a portion of the home encroaches the roadway easement.
Yep.
Then on the south, which is the side yard, the existing detached garage is less than 6 feet from the south property line. It's actually within the front yard. The setback to Fisher Crescent, it's not dimensioned on the Platis survey.
Got it.
I don't know if that helps.
No, it
give
does.
Some
I mean,
perspective.
ultimately, it's a question for the applicant.
Well, can I just ask that, and you've got the survey in front of you, is that where the top first line from the, from Crescent Road to the corner of the house, the existing house, where it says 3748? Right under the tree.
Right, but that's not it's not quite to the edge of the roadway easement. So the home is maybe 40 feet. I'm just really estimating, because that's the cord. That dimension is from the cord.
Okay. Anybody else for staff?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I-
Oh, sorry,
well,
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
just have a question. I just want to understand the easement on Crescent. So the yellow area there and the bold black line down the middle, that indicates the edge of this property, but then there's the easement is the yellow. Is there also on the other side of that, on the east, I guess it would be the east side of that, there's also another 20-foot easement that is part of of some of the other properties that are above it? Is
That's
that
usu-
correct? In other words, everything is owned by somebody in this particular case, and the easement is cutting through uniformly on 50% on each side of the line, the property line. Is that right?
That's the typical setup that you'll see for private road easements within the village for
Right,
private
right.
subdivisions. Yeah, it's split evenly on 2 sides, sometimes unevenly, but
Got it.
yeah.
But this isn't a situation where there's a portion that is not owned by any private individual. There are some streets certainly in Winnetka that are like that, but with the private roads, as you're just confirming the fact that this is like any other private road, it's kind of a half and half situation along the property line. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
You good?
And the shaded area does represent actually the drivable area currently of Crescent Lane. Is that correct?
The private road easement and the actual practical drivable area aren't always the same. The easement size usually is sort of a uniform length, and the width of the street or the road can vary
It can vary,
sometimes.
and it just stays within that easement area, but it may meander a little closer to one side or the other
Yeah,
side.
it sometimes-
But in this case, that shaded area there, I'm seeing the sort of speckled area there is the actual boundary, the edge of Crescent, the paved area of Crescent Road?
I think you'll see the paved area sort of weaves in and out. So that yellow area along Fisher Crescent Lane does not have a uniform road
Right, I'm
length.
just asking whether that meandering line that's a little bit back from there is intending to represent the roadway, or is the edge of the roadway
yeah,
on
the
this
ed-
property's side?
Edge of the roadway and part of the driveway for the subject.
And yeah, driveway when the aprons come in and all that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. The applicant's representatives here tonight. Come on up. We'll swear you in real quick. Raise your right hand. promise the testimony you give tonight to this board shall be the truth?
Absolutely.
And your name, please, for the record?
Eamon Murphy.
Mr. Murphy, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to review this. The property in question was a little bit of a challenge when we started to have a look at it. The owners, Riley O'Gara, Addie Nelson, bought the property in May of 2024. They lived in it for about 18 months before they really kind of got serious about the fact that we were going to have to consider taking it down in order for them to actually build a new home that ideally they will be able to raise their family in for many years to come. The issue with the existing house, over and above the fact that it is actually illegally set within the existing easement and almost 70% of its footprint is non-conforming, it was actually built in 3 different stages, and it has numerous levels that are completely out of whack. There are lots of steps up and steps down that are not code compliant on the 2nd floor. And at the end of the day, they did love the house. They actually got married in the southwestern corner of the lot. But unfortunately, when it really comes down to the idea of creating a home that's going to be, fit for having young children in, it was not working in that way. And that's when we really set out to come up with a new design that would still be appropriate and thoughtfully detailed for the lot. And you'll see the actual buildable lot area came out to be less than 25% of the lot area. And that's the lot area not counting the easements. I think it's 19,652 square feet is the actual lot area, and 4,846 square feet of it is buildable, according to a strict interpretation of the setbacks. It is worth noting, I know it's part of the packet, the lot itself is non-conforming. You would normally expect a corner lot to be more restrictive in terms of the buildable lot area. However, in my experience, R2, R3 lots, that comes out to maybe 34%, 35%, less than 25% is actually pretty exceptional. But working in good faith, we had a look at the kind of wedge shape of the buildable area, and we came up with the L-shaped design for the house. Originally, we actually submitted a site plan that actually had the house sited about 10 feet further to the west, with the idea being that we were going to be fully respectful of the corner lot setback, but seek a little bit of relief on the western side. Part of that is because if you visited the lot and you saw the fact that the private road easement on the west side is not developed and basically just yard area for all the surrounding houses, the idea of keeping a 50-foot setback off of that was seeming a little extreme. The issue that arose with that was that when we were making progress on the grading design for the property, there are 2 large white oak trees that are 24 and 26-inch diameter trees that are in the southwest corner of the site. They're actually directly adjacent to the existing detached garage. And any orientation of the house that we had that was trying to be respectful of the corner lot line and seek relief on the west side was going to be too close to those trees to be able to functionally save them. These are heritage trees. They are, I don't know whether it's possible to bring this site plan back up because.
Yeah.
Oh, is it, can I do it?
If you go to figure 6, we might be able to.
Use these. Perfect, okay. If you can see, basically right above where the red wedge shape is off of the red line represents buildable area, you can actually see the 2 trees right there. After a lot of kind of thoughtful discussion, we decided it was worth it to the owners to try to do whatever we could to save those trees. In all honesty, they were of a scale where I don't think anybody would ever be able to grow something that large during their time of living in the house. And it just seemed like a real shame to be able to not keep them. The other thing, too, that happened when we actually shifted the house to the east to try to do everything that we could to keep those trees, we significantly reduced the actual area of relief that we were looking for. In total, along that curved boundary on the west and the east and the north sides of the lot, we're seeking about 86 square feet of encroachment. 70 square feet is at the front porch, and then 16 square feet is at the corner of the garage. I should say at this point, I understand the kind of unconventional nature of seeking zoning relief for new construction. For reference, I am actually the chair of the zoning board in Kenilworth, and I have heard many very interesting claims about what constitutes a hardship. A lot of the time it has to do with a need or a want as opposed to something that is measurable on the property. In this specific instance, the hardship that we are facing is just how restrictive the buildable lot area is. Less than 25% is really actually pretty exceptional. And what we have tried to do in good faith is be extremely respectful of that buildable lot area, of the setback lines, but also still build a house that is actually appropriately scaled and thoughtfully designed for this neighborhood. It's worth pointing out that we are not seeking any kind of relief on FAR, on impermeable lot coverage, on roofed lot coverage, because the house itself is appropriately sized for this lot. The issue that we're facing is that the lot being non-conforming and being R2, we actually are having to deal with extremely restrictive setbacks based upon the actual scale of the lot. The other thing that I know, pardon me, I can't remember which member of the board had asked about it, but the easement running along Crescent Lane is not perfectly centered with the actual roadway area. The roadway is actually significantly more justified towards the neighboring property. And so even though we are seeking this relief, at no point are we ever positioning the house to be less than 40 feet off the actual road. In actual fact, the 42 feet is the setback, is the distance from the corner of the garage to the road. It's just about 40 feet from the corner of the porch to the road. And then the other thing too, because we've designed the house as an L, we actually have created a courtyard space that is facing the road, which actually allows us a setback of about 66 feet at the inside corner of the house. And while I understand the idea that historically there's just sort of been an expansive front yard on the property, what we're actually doing now is creating a situation where the owners are getting a certain amount of private rear yard, which the previous house did not have. But again, we're also creating opportunities that are going to create visual interest along the roadway. And so with all of that, we've come to you basically with the idea that this is, an extremely respectful design, which we hope that you'll agree with.
Thank you very much. Nice to see a fellow commissioner at the podium. We should grab a beer sometime, catch up. What alternatives did you look at in terms of the siting? What's the distance between those trees to the back of the property in terms of just how tight to it are we right now?
How tight from the house to the trees?
Yeah.
There's about 17 feet clear from the tightest portion of the very back southwest corner of the house is a screen porch. And so from the tightest point of that screen porch to the center point of those trees is about 17 feet.
Okay.
In terms of what other siting did we consider, to be brutally honest, at no point did we ever really consider trying to re-site the house in its current condition. It's honestly, it's sort of, it was so idiosyncratic, and the fact that it also was not only non-conforming, but, you know, actually encroaching onto the easement, it felt like it really wasn't setting any kind of a real...
The western easement?
The western easement.
Which is,
Well,
it's a nothing burger.
At some point, what we found was there was maybe a plan to do a private drive that was shared between a couple of properties. However, it seems like that predates most of the actual development that happened in the area, and it was never actually done. There is some utilities that do run through that easement, which makes it even more interesting that the house itself was actually encroaching onto that space.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I have just a quick question to make sure I'm understanding the orientation of the house. If you don't mind if I point.
Absolutely.
Is this a screen porch?
That's the screen porch there.
So there is full foundation on this?
There is slab on grade construction on that.
Okay, with some type of, okay.
With some type of
So the
frost
trees
wall,
we're
but it would
trying-
not
these are the
be any
trees we're
kind of,
trying to save, right?
correct.
Okay.
So there,
So if this wasn't here and the actual exterior of the home, I think you talked about if you slid that toward the red here, what you'd have a problem with is getting in your full size of your screen porch.
correct. So the original site plan that was actually submitted for the variation request actually had the house shifted about 10 feet to the west.
way.
Exactly, to the west. It was in full compliance with the corner yard setback. Where we would have been seeking relief was about, I think it was about 9 feet of relief on the
front yard.
west, on the front yard.
Right.
Facing
But for these trees.
Well, and so there was no real way. The existing property has a retaining wall there, and those trees are actually on a much higher grade than most of the rest of the property. We would have ended up having to lift the whole house up about 2 feet additionally, which would have caused significant grading issues to be able to try to save the trees. But at the same time, they're actually, whenever they do the what is it? The tree surveys that show their actual conditions, tree condition reports. They grade them on a 1 to a 6 generally being dead. And when we actually got that information back for those 2 trees, they were graded at a 2. They're gorgeous big white oaks, and I don't know if it comes across looking at the site plan, but you can see any of the major trees are actually drawn in. We've basically done whatever we can to avoid having to take any of the major trees down on the site, because it is actually one of the nicest elements that is there that can be preserved is the large growth trees. So that's where we then decided that we were going to try to shift back and try to seek relief on the corner yard in that instance.
Can I ask one more dumb question, because I'm not an architect?
Absolutely.
Thank you. From a shifting perspective,
Yep.
is there a need that why does it have to run completely parallel to the front yard western easement? Like, I'm like thinking of like 3 ticks to the left, and this thing could avoid the trees, almost like putting a car, like, couldn't it go from noon to 11 and effectively pull the corner yard setbacks into compliance and create a little bit more hardship maybe in terms of the front yard setback? But like, could this property not tilt 3 degrees to the west and
So
obviate the corner yard setback? This is where the architect comes in.
So at the end of the day, if what you're asking is, was there a way of being able to do the same plan in an orientation that would have made it fully compliant on all 4 sides? The answer is no.
Without reducing the size of the structure.
Without reducing the size. Although what I would say is, please keep in mind, the property that we are proposing is actually, I can't remember if it's 800 or 900 square feet lower than the maximum FAR that would be allowed for this site. We are not in any way asking to build something that is too large for the lot or that it is inappropriately scaled. In actual fact, by creating the L shape and not actually just creating a massive block of a building, we're trying to do something that can be a little bit more detailed and a little bit more elegant for that property. Most of what you will see nowadays with the developer properties is we will fit as much possible square footage within the buildable lot area as we possibly can. That's never been part of our MO with this project. In actual fact, I advised the owners at the start of all this that if we were trying to measure this by what, from a realtor standpoint, would actually have the best return, I said for a lot of this size, we might be wanting to consider something larger. At the end of the day, what we kind of worked through and figured out that felt really appropriate for this site was a property that was smaller and that also is only 1.5 stories. We're not trying to claw back every last bit of FAR by doing, a third floor level that we can then claim the 3% overage on or things like that. I mean, it really is a very thoughtfully designed and appropriately scaled house.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thanks so much. Any members of the public here tonight wish to give public comment on this application? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it in for deliberation. Fairly straightforward. It's one zoning relief that's requested here, the corner yard setback. You guys can see the shaded purple areas. Who wants to start? Member Hanley. Thank you.
I am leaning towards approval. I think it's a small request. I'm not sure exactly what he said the square footage was in terms of how much it encroaches, but it's under 100 square feet.
It's 8 feet here.
What?
8 feet on the.
I know, but like in terms of like.
Oh, the
in
total,
terms of
the
like,
buildable.
when you're looking at it and
interior
it's,
space, yeah.
it's pretty tiny in terms of what's encroaching. And from the street, you really wouldn't be able to tell because the street itself is, and the easement goes so far into the yard as opposed to the street. So in terms from an aesthetics perspective, I don't think it has the, it's not gonna alter the character of the street. And I definitely think there is a hardship given the unique shape of the lot, the quirky private easement issues that we have seen before in this town, and how it creates such a small buildable area for an R2. That's an incredibly small buildable area. So I'm inclined to approve.
Okay, Catherine?
I agree. I feel like it's a really tricky lot, and so a lot of thought went into the design, and I think it is a reasonable variance to request because it minimizes the amount of house that's actually out of compliance, and so everything Lynn said I agree with, and I'm comfortable approving this.
Mike?
I agree with Catherine and Lynn. I think the encroachment is very modest. Almost all of the house, as we can see, fits in that triangular buildable lot area. And they clearly spent a lot of time thinking about this and minimizing the encroachment to the extent that they could while still saving the trees. So I'm in favor of granting the application.
Todd?
I was a little concerned. I was always the one that fought against the precedent-setting concerns. I think the comments are public and address each one, but that was what I thought might come up as far as, I think Ken had said that it's a little unusual to build new and ask for something. I think the context of a number of things, the easements, which I've got a utility easement in my backyard, it's come up here, and the minimal nature of it. And again, I do agree, you can find a way to build as much square footage. So, the nature of them sort of pulling back from that and thinking about the lot is, I suppose, the shared commentary coming in a little more concerned about.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
So when I first opened this, I looked at these two little purple corners and I thought, no big deal. And then I would say our standards kind of got in the way, being that,
Those
you know,
pesky standards.
those pesky standards. I mean, smaller house is you're still getting a reasonable return. And I get it. We talk about uniquely shaped lot and unique geometry and all that kind of stuff. I guess fighting against that is that it isn't, all things considered, yeah, it's not some third floor like trying to eke out every little inch. So why don't we give them these other few feet? And all other standards are met, but I feel like smaller house, I like Matt's idea to shift it, but that I could see how that doesn't work. I like how you, I think, well, you haven't spoken yet, but you were gonna maybe say, cut back the screen porch, and then we could start to inch it a little bit left to make it a little bit better. Not sure if that's possible, but I know where you were going with that. I think it's a tough one. So I don't have an answer.
Mark, where you at?
I understand the unusual nature, but I'm leaning toward a positive feeling on this. I do, for the reasons, I won't restate the reasons that others felt comfortable with it. I would generally agree with those points. I respect the idea of keeping large trees. You know, another developer might come in here and just hack them down, and then the village would say, replace them with a bunch of saplings that add up to 26 inches and 24 inches, and it wouldn't be the same. It would, you know, neighborhoods like that take 100 years to look like that. So I think the interesting point is we have not a developer, but we have somebody who's looking to do a new home that's coming to us and saying, in part, one of the reasons why we want these small adjustments is so we can maintain some elements of the land that are really part of the character of the neighborhood. And I think, so that helps me get comfortable with these small asks, together with the unusual nature of the land, this particular piece of land itself. I think it's also helpful, in my view, that the actual established roadway, while there is an easement that would allow a road that's, I guess, as wide as the easement, it's not a fact that that's the road. The road is there, and it's been existing for some time. I didn't hear any evidence that somebody would change where the road is. And so there is you know, while the strict nature of the easement and that easement measurement would put them less than the required front setback, the actual observed setback from the road is something greater with the way the road is situated. So those are all points that ameliorate for me, I guess, getting comfortable with this this ask here today.
Okay, thank you for that. Boy, I tell you, with new construction, I just, I don't feel good about it at all. I think it is precedent setting. I think the developers take note of potential decisions like this as, you know, a signal of sorts that, you know, our zoning codes are there, but for the starting point of a negotiation. And, you know, I appreciate and I believe the applicant's earnest about what they're trying to do here. I'm never usually persuaded by, we could have gone bigger, we could have done so much worse. It's a it's a blank slate. And there's just simply it's very difficult for me to satisfy the first standard that the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted under the conditions allowed by regulations in the zone. It is an unusual property. Easements are not uncommon. Irregular and existing non-conforming lots are not uncommon. They're not the standard, but they're not so severe that we have a one-of-one problem here when we look at what's going on in terms of potential renovation and new construction. I agree. It is a de minimis amount, but it is again from a white page. It's hard for me to say any amount is justified to that first standard. I mean, certainly the easements were known when the property was acquired. It is an unusual lot. They must have known that at the time that they acquired the property. These two trees, I did have an occasion to drive past it, and this site map does not do those trees justice. They're huge, and they are in the way of what I would have expected to find, which was relief sought on the front yard setback, which would more align with what the neighborhood already knows as the character of 1086, is this sort of property that is set back on, this easement. I don't know that anybody who hasn't lived there for generations knows that it's even there. But it's hard for me to square that this can't be just modicum tightened in or pulled slightly to the west. There's the testimony that there's 17 feet or so between the edge of the screened-in porch and these trees, and frankly, that gives me just a little bit of pause that this overage into or this encroachment into the corner yard setback isn't entirely obviated by pulling this just slightly to the left. I do understand it might pop up a new whack-a-mole in the front yard. It will in the front yard setback, but that's more of a specter of an actual variance to me than pulling this thing closer to Crescent Lane. So I'm very much torn that the first standard is properly met. I have heard your guys' very compelling arguments, and I guess there's an argument that every property is uniquely its own, so that from a precedent standing perspective, we haven't essentially let a developer come and do something to the nines that we should expect is going to be thrown back in our face at some point. This is a homeowner in a fairly modest build, but yeah, new construction. It's very hard for me to wrap my head around why this can't be just slightly smaller and built, knowing the property you could sell it tomorrow and get a reasonable return right back. But I think we have sufficient votes to recommend approval, and I'm not such a miser that I couldn't get behind that. I would entertain a motion then to recommend approval as included on page 9 of our packet.
Oh, page 9 of our packet?
Page 375 of 392, but I've got page 9. That's Member Hanley. Do I have a second? That's Member Ritter. Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanley?
Yes.
Member Ritter? Yes. Member Vender?
Yes.
Member Leister?
Yes.
Member Nielsen?
No.
Member Howler? Yes. Chair Bradley?
No.
Motion passes.
By my count, the motion passes. Good luck, congrats. Next step is Village Council with your project. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is new business. We already did a quorum check for March 9th. Thank you for that. Public comment. Anyone who you stayed this long. If you want to give any public comment on anything not on the agenda, you're happy to do so? Don't feel, okay, we'll close public comment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Member Hanley, second.
Second.
Member Nielsen, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.